Hello, it's Chris from My Stamp Lady, and I'm here with this Blended Seasons stamp set. So this is a limited edition stamp set, and we're going to do something for fall. This is my card, so let's get started. Okay, so I have the blended stamp set. This comes in 2 cases, so it's a set of 12, and we've got summer, fall, some more fall and Christmas, and just a bunch of the seasons that work together. The set that I have is the red rubber, but it also comes in the wood mount. And this is a limited edition set, meaning it is while supplies last or through the end of August 2018, whichever comes first. So I'm going to set my stamp set aside. I am also using my layering circles dies. This is a set that I use a lot. I love the layering circles. We've got the scallops and then the circles that are designed to go on top of each other. I'm also using the wonderful subtle embossing folder. This is a textured impressions folder, and it's one of the dynamic ones, which means it's really thick and it gives a nice deep impression. Okay, so when you go to my website, mystamplady.com, you'll find all of the sizes or the cardstock that I'm using right there on the website. But we will get started with, first of all, my card base is thick whisper white, and it is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2 inches. And I'm not doing anything with this card base right now, so I can just set that aside. And then I have a piece of whisper white. This is 3 7/8 inch by 5 1/8 inch. And when I'm done working with this, I will be putting it onto a basic black mat that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Okay, so first of all for this, we're going to emboss this. And I'm using that subtle background embossing folder. This is just going to give it some texture. Because this is a dynamic folder, that means it's a little thicker, and so it has more room to press that into. So you do not need 2 acrylic plates with this. You just need your Big Shot platform without the thin die adapter, and be sure to place this fold up here, facing up. If you put it to the side, you run the risk of tearing it up on the edge of your Big Shot, and then eventually this would become 2 pieces. We have to adjust that when I go back over to the Big Shot and run that through. And then 1 acrylic pad. Okay, so I've taken that out of that folder, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but maybe if I hold it to the side, a little bit of that light will pick up that texture. With the Sahara sand stamp pad, I'm taking a sponge brayer and I'm inking that up, and be sure you go in one direction. If you go back and forth, you won't get a nice inking or a nice amount of ink onto that sponge brayer. Okay, and then I'm just sponging the Sahara sand over this piece of embossed cardstock just to give it a little bit more color and pop out that texture a little bit more. Just do it as dark as you would like. Okay, so then I'm going to actually use that again. But we can mount this right onto the basic black cardstock mat. There we go. And I'm just going to mount that right on there. I like to tip it over when I burnish it, just so I don't rub the surface that will be showing. I like to give it a lot of burnishing just to get that just to make sure that I get a nice strong hold. Okay, so this is a piece of paper from the Regals Designer Series paper, and it's just 1 inch by 4 inches. And then I'll just put that down right there on the top. Press that in nice and firmly. Okay, I can set this aside. I don't want to mount it to the card front quite yet because I will be putting a piece of black linen thread around that. So now I have my leaf image from that Blended Seasons, inking this up with the Tuxedo Black Ink. So I believe this piece of cardstock is about 3 1/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. I need it just large enough so I can use that circle die on there, and so I can just stamp that on to that whisper white piece. I use the Tuxedo Black because I plan to use the blends And the blends require the Tuxedo Black ink so that they don't run. Okay, that's about where I want my die. And now I will be using the magnetic platform with 2 acrylic plates. I like to make sure my plates are rotated often so that they don't bow too much. Let's place that down and another acrylic plate on top and run that through the Big Shot. Okay, so here is my leaf image that I'm going to color. I'm going to use blends. So I have the Cherry Cobbler combo, and this is currently available in the annual catalog. Then I have 2 colors that are coming up in the upcoming holiday catalog. I have the Mango Melody. Yep, I'm going to make sure I said that right. And then Cajun Craze. So I like using the lights and the darks to get a little bit of shading. I'm not doing a ton or a lot of shading, but I'm doing a little bit. And then I will speed this up too so that you don't have to sit here and watch in real time. I'm going to use the fine end. So you don't have to watch me color in real time because it does take a little bit more time to do some coloring with the blends, but you do get a nice look. And just one more note before I kind of put myself on speed up mode here. When you use the blends, you do go through. That's a very common, or that's expected when you use them. You're getting a lot of ink on the cardstock and it will soak through. Okay, so I'm finishing up here and I cut some out and I sped up my coloring time just so you wouldn't have to watch it all, but I do go from light to dark and then back to light to blend in that dark. That is how I typically do my blending with the Stampin' blends. Okay, I have a piece of the Cajun Craze cardstock that is cut with the 1 size larger circle die. I just did that ahead of time so you wouldn't have to see me do that. I did that ahead of time and now I'm just matting that piece. Oh, and before I matted that, I should have done this first, but I'm gonna just add a tiny bit of the Sahara sand. That's what I've got off camera here, just so that it's not quite as stark white. There we go. Just add a little bit to that. Now I have a piece of Whisper White cardstocks that is 3 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches, and the Cajun Craze ink. And I'm going to ink up my sentiment and stamp that onto this strip of Whisper White cardstock. There we go. And I'll set this aside. Okay, so let's pull this back in. I will be using some of the Dimensionals with this to give it a little bit of lift. But first of all, before I put this down, I'm going to take a length of the black baker's twine, wrap that around twice, and then just tie a bow. I can adjust where that bow will go after I have tied it. So I'll just tie that around the front here. And that is one of the reasons that I'm going to be using the Dimensionals to put down this piece of cardstock, because I don't want it to kind of look like it's folded up over the cardstock. So I like to have a smooth background, and Dimensionals will lift that up just a little bit. I am also using some of the Dimensionals on the back side of this piece to lift it up over this bow here. I'm gonna move that bow over just a bit more. There we go. And let's see. Oh, I can move it over just even a bit more. Just pulling that after it's been tied. That looks good there. So we'll put that there. Take off those backs. For my sentiment, I will not need a dimensional on both ends, because one end is going to sit up on this piece that's already raised. So let's put a dimensional on this end and then just some regular adhesive on that end so it'll sit flat up here. There we go. And so now let's trim this up there. And I will put dimensionals on the back side. I like to use up even the edges of my dimensional sheets so that there's no waste with that. So I'm finishing up what I have there. Oh, I think I'll put one more up there just so that it doesn't kind of sag at the top there. But even just clip around and use up those edges so you can use every bit of your dimensional sheet. Place this. This is my cardstock base here. I'll place that there. Now I've taken in from the metallic sequins assortment, I have picked out 3 black sequins that I'm going to place just across the front here, just to get my eye, or carry the eye across. This is a sneak peek also. This September 5th is when this little pick your tool will be available, and it has a little bit of putty on the end that you can use to pick up those little sequins. It also has another end, and I happen to have this is refillable, by the way. I happen to have a little spatula, otherwise there's a piercer end, and there's even an end that I don't have here right now, but you can replace that with even a scoring end. And this end, those little putty ends are replaceable. So there you go. There is my Blended Seasons card, colored with Stampin' Blends, which all of the supplies are available in my online store at shopwithmystamplady.com. And if you have any questions, be sure to contact me, Chris, at mystamplady.com. I hope you enjoy this card that you can make.